So let's start talking about what happens in the third trimester, and what you have to share with us.
Yes, so the third trimester, I suppose, if I were to sum it up in a few words, really, the key things are that it's all about the growth and maturity of the baby, because they need to prepare themselves for what's coming. And it is also, for the woman too, it's a very big part of the preparation for labour and birth that's going to be happening in the third trimester, particularly the last 6 weeks or so. So that's really, in a nutshell, what's happening. So for the mother then, if we think about what's happening with her, it's enormous. There's enormous changes going on, not only changes with her body, but lots of things she's got to think about as well. So from a physical point of view, she might be starting to feel very uncomfortable again, maybe backache, heartburn, all those kind of things, making it very uncomfortable, maybe not being able to sleep because she's uncomfortable. And the body is making lots and lots of adjustments at this time. So every organ of the body has changed gradually over the pregnancy, but it's a massive change now. Blood volume will have increased by about 30 to 40% to accommodate the growing baby and the placenta and all those kind of things. And also her ability to breathe in more oxygen increases as well. So every major organ of the body is involved in this process. So the body's quite amazing, really, that it's making all these changes in readiness for this woman to be able to cope with birth. The other thing that's happening very much is hormonal activity, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in another section. But especially the last few weeks, from about 36 weeks onwards, the neck of the womb is starting to soften, and also the woman will perhaps start experiencing the Braxton Hicks contractions, which I'm sure you've probably heard about. And these are like little contractions. People say they're painless, but sometimes they do feel a bit uncomfortable. And it's almost like the body's having a bit of a dress rehearsal, you know, for the main event. Yeah. So there's all those sort of things that are happening, and that's all under the influence of all these hormones that are very active at this time. So not only that, there's all the practical arrangements that need to be made. You know, the equipment to get, the baby items, all those things that we busy ourselves with towards the end of pregnancy. There might perhaps be birthing options that the woman might still be considering. You know, she might already be organised to go into hospital. Maybe that's where she's chosen to have a baby. But some women leave it till quite a bit later before they sort of finally decide what it is they want to do. So it might be, am I actually going to have this baby at home? And quite a lot more women are deciding on that option these days. Or it might be that they're going into a maternity midwifery-led unit. So it's where midwives are just in charge. If your pregnancy has been normal, then that is an option that might be available to you. So there's quite big decisions like that she might need to be addressing. And of course, what else goes with midwifery, maternity, is all those mixed emotions that come into it as well. So, you know, there might be quite excitement about, you know, coming to the end of a pregnancy and giving birth to the baby, and the whole expectation of it all. But also there might be some negative feelings mixed up there as well. So there might be anxiety about the labour? Is she going to cope with it? Is the baby going to be okay? What about a partner? Is he going to be okay? And things like that that might be on her mind and sort of worrying her. She might be feeling quite irritable because she's uncomfortable. She might be snapping at people, find people annoying perhaps. Those of you that have been pregnant, I'm sure towards the end when people will say things to you, oh, you're still here then, are you? And you've got this huge stomach, which is obvious you're still here. And things like that can be very irritating towards the end. So a huge amount of things going on for the woman at this time. For the baby, one of the most important things is that it's the maturity of all the baby's major organs. So their heart and their lungs particularly are maturing, especially in the last couple of months. They do tend to have quite a bit of a growth spurt as well. And, you know, as if you're not big enough as it is, you can certainly grow quite a bit bigger in the third trimester. The baby is starting to lay down extra fat stores and also extra iron stores, and this is to sustain it and help the baby to survive once it's born out of the uterus. So it's adapting to its life outside of the womb. And also the placenta is maturing as well, because obviously the placenta will have a massive lot of work to do once the labour starts and for birth. Also, the baby will be settling into its position for birth as well, and this of course is normally head down. Fingers crossed, that's usually how it is. And if it's your first baby, then the baby will start to descend from about 36 weeks. So you can start to feel quite heavy at your lower back and in your thighs and that kind of thing as the baby starts to move down. If it's your second or third baby or whatever, then often the baby doesn't actually descend down until you go into labour. That's because things have stretched a little bit more and there's a bit more room to play with. So the baby will start to feel that there's less room. They may sort of not move quite so much. Things start to quieten down a little bit and the baby settles in readiness for what's coming. And also, of course, as we know, the baby does respond to the mum's emotions, which is why it's important to keep nice and calm if you can. And also the baby will be responding to the changing hormones as well as mother will be doing. So that's really, I think, anything to cover, unless you've got things you want to ask me, Artie.
I thought there, just when you mentioned about the placenta, and you were saying that that plays quite an important role later as well. I think not many people are aware of that. Is it possible if you just take a few minutes just to explain that as well in terms of cutting cord or maybe you can talk about it later, however you feel.
Yes, yeah. Well, of course, the placenta is the major organ that acts as a go-between between the mother and the baby. So everything that is happening will go through the placenta. So, you know, the blood supply and anything else is all connected to the baby via the umbilical cord and then to the placenta. And also the placenta produces what we call fetal hormones, which again, talk a little bit more in depth about that. So that it produces hormones as well. So it has a key role in synchronizing with its mother, the health of the baby, being in tune with the mother and the emotions, as we said, all of those things cross over into the placenta and affect the baby. It's obviously it's food source as well. So all the food that the mother is taking in will be transferred to the placenta in a suitable form, of course, for the baby. So everything that the baby needs is produced by the placenta for the baby. And of course it has a massive blood supply as well, which is why when I said about the mother's blood volume increasing, that a lot of that is because of the growth of placenta, which has a very, very rich blood supply, which is needed because the baby has to have its oxygen supply as well. And certainly for labour, that's a really important role, that the baby will be needing extra oxygen to cope with labour.
Oh,
So
excellent.
hopefully that gives a little bit of extra information.
Yeah, I think this will be a chance to talk about this further if there is interest in terms of like,
Yeah,
when you cut the cord or how long you need to
yeah,
leave it. So I think a lot of people
yeah,
have other questions, so it's
yeah,
a good, it's good to just touch upon it a little bit. That
yeah, yeah.
yep. So.